Morning guys, Automotive Inquiries out here. I'm out in eastern Colorado visiting my parents, and drove the Godzilla out for its I guess first bigger road trip. I got a couple thousand miles on it now, but on the way out here mixed between 75 and then half of that was a 65-mile-an-hour highway. Averaged 17 miles a gallon in eco, but I did set it and forget on the cruise, so I think that's pretty good. But the last video did create a lot of conversation, and a lot of people are still busting my chops about the reliability of this motor and everything like that. So I want to talk about busting a few myths about this motor, and everybody is very concerned about, well, you know, this and that. Well, the 6.2 motor is been proven to last about 300,000 miles of proper maintenance. And you know, at the end of the day, I would tell people, I said, this motor came out in 2020, and this motor didn't just come to market and all of a sudden just show up and you know, go to work. I mean, Ford, Chevy, everybody puts these motors to work over hundreds of thousands of miles and to prove them before they put them in a vehicle to try and do it. So the real main problems with this motor that have came up, and they're really not huge problems, was the spark plug issue, which was just a spark plug wiring harness, which the dealer will take care of you on that, or you can fix it yourself. It's 30 bucks to replace, but if it's under warranty, they'll take care of it. Two, the misnomer about fuel economy on this truck, where people are saying, you know, it gets atrocious fuel economy. Well, if you bought a big block heavy duty truck, or you bought a diesel or whatever to get fuel economy, that is a bonus if it gets good fuel economy. But come on, these trucks are made to be pulling in. And then you got the whole different segment that are going out and buying, you know, Hellcats and everything for they get even worse fuel economy, and that car weighs nothing. So I mean, it's like, hey, listen, just go get what you like, and if you can find a way to get 17 like I do, then I think that's pretty good out of a truck. Then the last one was cams, lifters, and everything like that. What you need to know about the Godzilla is this is not a new technology. This push rod design is from 20 years ago. So I mean, they basically took it, perfected it, made it better. This truck motor is in Class A motorhomes that are gas. These are in HD trucks, and you know, at the end of the day, this motor is rated for 300 to 500,000 miles. People say, well, you know, if I even keep it that long, I'd be blown away. Most people don't keep it that long. Keep their vehicles that long. I'm all about just upgrading. And if I could, I would definitely put it in there. But people said the same thing about the 6-liter. Yes, the 6-liter had a lot of problems, but in the grand scheme of things, it was no less. The ratio is no less. My 6-liter was great. 80,000 miles, I over-maintained it. It was perfect. 6.4 came out. Everybody said, hey, that's a crap motor, it's garbage, it has its problems. It did. It had its problems. It was actually a flawless motor for me for 80,000 miles. So, you know, if you maintain them correctly, I don't think you have to really be concerned about overall longevity of a motor. Now, people are saying that lifters and cams are failing at 30 and 40 on this motor. Okay, well, the powertrain on this new truck is 60,000 miles. That's going to carry over to you and the next owner until it reaches that point, 5 years or 60,000 miles. So you get to that point, and Ford's going to take care of it. Well, one of those aspects of that limited liability warranty is you're going to need to make sure that you maintain it correctly, or over maintain it correctly, and you're going to have to be able to prove it. So guys that say, well, I like to tune my own, you know, oil and do my own things, okay, that's great. You're going to need to keep your receipts. You're going to need to prove that you did it, mileage and receipts and everything like that. And then in addition to that, you're going to need to make sure that those parts meted or exceeded the OEM standards of the truck itself, so that way you can keep your warranty in good shape. So I would tell people all the time, I buy Motorcraft parts for Ford. I buy AC Delco parts for GM. I buy Chrysler or Stellantis, whatever the hell they're marketing those as nowadays, for parts. But Mopar, I buy those parts for the truck. You can go out and buy Caterpillar things, and you can twist and tune and do all of this bypass stuff, oil coolers, whatnot. But again, some of those aspects can cut away to that limited liability warranty. So if you can leave it bone stock and enjoy it bone stock, I don't think you really need to sweat it if your cams and lifters blow at 30-40,000 miles. Now, I would say, okay, if that is the case, you know, you might then think back, well, maybe I should get rid of this truck. Okay, well, you could trade it off, whatever. But at the end of the day, that issue is so rare. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of motors. I was trying to find the exact number, but some people believe it's in the 500,000 of these 7.3 gassers are out there. no matter what they're in. And then there's crate motors that people are buying on the 732. So I look at it like the ratio of issues compared to are very, very minuscule in the grand scheme of things to how many have been produced. And I think that no matter what, there are going to be flops in everything. There was a time where the 5.3 Chevy was one of Ward's top motors of the century. It's one of the greatest. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, all of a sudden, all of those motors were having issues. Well, you can get a bad batch of parts, and that can really screw up your clientele's thought of, how good that is going to be and everything like that. But really, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's making any garbage out there. So when it comes to everybody's saying, well, this motor's undependable. Well, I had a first gen 6.7 of 2011, and I had it for 8 weeks. I had it for 1,000 miles, and it spent about 7 weeks in the shop. Every time it drove away, it had an issue, shook, rattled, and everything like that. It didn't skew me away from that, but I moved away from it. But I didn't just poo-poo the motor, because there's millions of those out there, and people have had really great luck with them. So I look at it like, just go out, do your research, and do your maintenance. I over-maintain my vehicles. I buy only the right parts, and I don't necessarily take it to the dealer to have them do the oil changes and everything, but I make sure that I keep track of that. And people will say, well, my maintenance isn't that much. Okay, that's fine. But just remember, if you use any other parts that are not going to meet or exceed the OEM expectations, then you could potentially void those limited liability warranties. So that's how manufacturers got in there, because people are tweaking, deleting, doing this and that. That's all going to cause you problems in the long run. So at the end of the day, the myth is that this motor is unreliable, untried, untrue, unproven. People have said, well, yeah, I'll get 500,000 out of my diesel before you'll die at 250. Okay, well that's okay, but you could also spool a turbo. I've been there. I've had a diesel. You can spool a turbo. You can need a new EGR. You can need a DPF replacement. You can do just the $1,800 service. All of those extra maintenance that you're going to accrue, I could rebuild this motor for $2,500 to $3,000. So I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I might only get half if we're just going on those beliefs of 250 versus 500, but because I didn't spend 10 grand, I can rebuild the motor 4 times, which means I actually get 4 times the motor out of what you'd get out of a diesel. So that's almost 1 million miles. So I'm not going to sit here and claim that this is going to be a better or more dependable motor, and I'm not poo-pooing any diesels. But when people come at me saying, well, this, well, I would say prove me with numbers, prove it with documented numbers that there's 1 million catastrophic failures on this motor, and they made 1,000,001 motors. And so therefore, that's a proven spec that this motor is not tried and true. And like I said, we have V10s at work that you can beat that motor all day. It'll rev to whatever, it comes down to whatever, it goes down the grades just fine. And it's not a powerhouse by any means of cooking, but I mean, most people, once you reach those certain weight limits, you're not supposed to be going up and down those passes at 65, 75 mile an hour, even if you could do it. So I guess I'm struggling to find out where that makes a lot of sense, but that is what people do. So I would say myth busted on the 7.3 until we can get definitive numbers. But there is no literature out there showing this is not a dependable motor. Matter of fact, there's opposite information showing that not only this is a very dependable motor, but the actual issues are very isolated. And there are people that get the 1 or 2, or say there's 1,000 of these motors that went bad out of the 150,000 that were made. That's pretty good. So see you next time, guys.